Hi, hello. If you're here to learn how to create your first game in Fortnite using UEFN, well, I guess you're in the right place. My name is Francisco. Welcome. I'm design director at Epic Games. I've been in the industry for 25 years, working as a programmer making game engines for non-programmers, and also designing games like Far Cry and Watch Dogs.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rust. I'm a senior programmer writer at Epic Games. My background is in both engineering and education, and my focus is on learning resources to make programming and game development fun for everyone.
Hi, my name is Jay Villanueva. I'm a product design lead at Epic Games. I've been making games professionally for 18 years. I've spent more time than that in my spare time making games, and I love making tools that help people make games. So now that we're introduced, let's talk about the Unreal Editor for Fortnite. It's a version of the Unreal Editor for creating and publishing games into Fortnite, UEFN for short. Epic Games launched UEFN today, and we'd like to show you what that means. So what did you just see? The games you just saw were all developed with UEFN. All of them playable in Fortnite. The first thing I'd like to point out is they look dramatically different than what you might expect from Fortnite. They also play differently, using their own rules and core game loops. Some of you today might know Fortnite as Battle Royale, but it's much more than that. Here's a screenshot of some of the games you can find in the Discover tab. These are games that players can find and play, and that are made by users. In 2018, Epic launched the Fortnite Creative toolset. This empowered users to make games in the client. They could take those games and publish them. These creators used to receive money via the Support a Creator program. More on that in a moment. But the toolset enabled creators to create games, reach an audience, and build a brand. Today, over 40% of playtime is spent in games using the existing creative toolset. This is tens of millions of players spending billions of hours in games built by people like you. Today, part of the newly announced Creator Economy 2.0, eligible creators can now receive engagement payouts for building popular games players love to play. And UEFN provides creators more tools to build these popular games and experiences. You can learn more about the engagement payouts at create.fortnite.com. Okay, that's some of the background on where Fortnite is today. Let's talk about its future. This is what UEFN looks like. It's a Windows PC-based editor, and for those of you who have used UE5, you may find it looks familiar. There are tools you'll recognize, such as landscape, modeling, sequencer, and the material editor. And most importantly, asset importing. There are some differences between UE5 and UEFN, and some limitations. We'll touch on some of those today. UEFN does not replace the Fortnite Creative toolset. We will continue to support the toolset. In fact, UEFN complements the Creative toolset, as you'll see in this talk. Keep in mind, this is our very first release to the public. It is a beta. Please download it, make games, and give us feedback. So, speaking of games, we're going to make a game to demonstrate with UEFN how to prototype, achieve a unique look, define rules, collaborate and play, and publish. And I'll pass it to Francisco to show you how.
Thank you, Jay. Here is the game we're gonna make. Let's call it Doc Stranding. Love the name, future hit, I'm pretty sure. Just kidding, it's just a very simple game. It's a turn-based game where the goal is to reach the yacht. As you jump across the dock, you need to choose carefully between stepping on the left or on the right piece. And you need to be careful because one of those two is guaranteed to break. When it's not your turn, you just get to wait on the side and watch the other opponent risk getting wet. As I said, pretty simple game. So let's make it. Where do we start? Well, reusing Fortnite assets is a great way to start prototyping your game. Why is that? Pretty simple, because the huge collection of Fortnite assets come bundled with UEFN, ready to use, optimized for any platform. From the endless props to any consumable and weapon that you can find in Fortnite, to interactive objects, the one that we call devices, and that you may know if you are familiar with the Creative toolset. More on that later with Sarah. And up to thousands of full-fledged prefabs. So back to the game, back to our game. What do we need? We need first an ocean-like environment. We need platforms for players to jump on. And we need a final goal here, the yacht. Getting the ocean-like environment is going to be really simple. We're going to take any template that comes with UEFN and just remove the landscape. Side note, that's the place also where you will decide either you want to collaborate with other UEFN users using either Perforce or here, the Unreal Revision control that we just released today with the UEFN. So that's what we just did here. We just loaded one of those templates and removed the landscape. Now, we need a pier. We need something that player can start on. Let's look inside those Fortnite assets if we can find something that looks like a pier. Oh, this pirate dock will do. That's perfect. A little bit too piratey, but good enough for a prototype. Next, we're gonna need some platforms the players can jump on. Just duplicating this part of the dock will do the job. Copy-pasting, some multi-selection. If you used Creative before, you will appreciate the power that comes with a full-fledged level editing tool on PC, mainly a lot of multi-selection, copy-paste, and things like that. Next, we're gonna find the yacht. Here, it was pretty easy because I happen to remember the name of the asset. It was called the yacht. And after placing it at the end of those platforms, yes, that's going to be our endpoint. Pretty happy with the setup. Remember when I said it was full-fledged prefabs? That's what I mean. Like, we probably don't need all that. Look at that. There's a fan running, engines, corridor, computers. There's even what appears to be a gym for a cat with a view on the ocean. Why not? A full room, a helipad. I don't know. Those are all seeds for you to try and maybe start a new game. There's even a jacuzzi. I think, Jay, that's perfect for the end goal. The winner is definitely going to have a good time. Now that we have our base layout, we could jump right into prototyping the game, implementing the game rules, etc. That's usually what you will do. Here, however, we work with art people, and They already told us, nay, no way, Francisco. We want something that looks more British Columbia style / industrial style. So we got those great mood boards, we got those great mock-ups, and we already know what kind of look we want to achieve. To do that, to look different, not so cartoony, we're going to bring a more realistic asset set. We're going to set the mood of the sky, the clouds, etc. We're going to add some juicy visual effects for when the player jump on those platforms. And we're going to end with a more celebrating sequence at the end. If you have used Unreal Editor before, you may be familiar with a lot of the things that we're going to show here. If not, hopefully you're going to learn how you can leverage that. So let's start first by seeing how we can import our own assets. Very easy. The industry standard, FBX, is implemented inside UEFN as the de facto format for importing objects. Those FBX can come from 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, ZBrush, name it. We're going to use the import button here, select our FBX, just keep all the default options. We don't need to change the vertex colors or stuff like that. And those assets will appear in the content browser. Here, the variations of our wood dock pieces. There's 4 variations, 4 of them more realistic. We're going to place them and use our previous platforms coming from Fortnite as placeholders for our new assets. Guidance that will help speed up the process. All right. That's just a basic demonstration on the platform, but as you can imagine, every other asset in the game, from the pylon to the communication tower, were all imported the same way. To the fort cliff that nobody will see, pretty sure. To the islands on the background. To the trees on those islands. To the containers and the mandatory red barrel. They are all custom assets that were bring with FBX. Up to the seaweeds on the ocean floor. Again, I'll let you appreciate all the details that we've put in this minigame. Now, there's plenty of other ways to import your own assets. You could go to the Fab Marketplace. It just released today in alpha, and it unifies all the marketplace that you can find in Unreal Editor. Meaning by that, all the photorealistic meshes that you can have from Megascan, Quixel, etc. It's still alpha. Not everything is there for the moment, but it's going to become huge. You can also, if you feel creative, use the embedded Unreal modeling tool or the landscape tool that comes with Unreal Editor. It is there in UEFN with its brushes, its biomes, its height maps, its water bodies, etc., etc., etc. Material editor, name it. Okay, back to our game. Let's see how we can tweak the visual mood. To do this, we're going to use a device in the device folder that is called the day sequence. The day sequence device encapsulates the main component of the global illumination system of Unreal Engine that we call Lumen. Like, for instance, the time of day that already gives us a full control and a drastic change on the overall mood. We can change the color of the fog, the light scattering of the fog, the cloud color. So somebody suggested to make the clouds green. Why not? but we want a more British Columbia style, so we're going to stick with this nice purple. We're going to add also some visual effect to get some juicy game feel when the players jump on a platform that breaks. To do that, we're going to use Niagara. So Niagara is the VFX system and editor of Unreal. We're going to start from an empty one that we create in the content browser, and then drag and drop an emitter. We're going to choose one that is close to what we want to achieve, called the upward mesh burst, and replace those arrows with our own FBX, our own mesh, the wood pieces. There's 3 of them. Let's go select them and replace the default mesh. Telling the system to use also the textures from those mesh, but it's up to you to decide if you want to add another material on those particles. And finally, we just add a collision component so that they bounce on the floor. Again, as you can imagine, the other VFX were created the same way, from the splash on the pylons to the backwash behind the yacht on the final sequence. All right, we're almost there. Let's add an end celebration for when the player wins. We want something a little bit more cinematic. To do this, we're going to create a new level sequence. Again, right-click in the content browser. We've created our level sequence and drag and drop the yacht that will create a track in this level sequence. From this track, we can add keys in the transforms, here, the position, to move the boat. We're going to do the same with a camera, a cinematic camera actor. It comes with an ND preview that let us tweak easily the final cinematic effect, adding some keys on the position of the camera and the orientation. And that's how you get it. So we have our final sequence that should punctuate the victory of our game. All right. We reach a point where this layout looks pretty good. And I don't know, what are we missing? I think we almost have a game. So. Oh.
Almost, Francisco. We need some more game rules here. So let's remember what we're wanting to make again for the game. Okay, we want to randomize which dock pieces break, so it's different every game. And we want to guarantee only one dock piece breaks on each row, so there's always a path open to the end so a player can get to the boat and win the game. We want to manage the turns when there are multiple players, so only one player can run across the dock at a time, while the rest spectate from the side. And when a player falls into the water, their turn ends and the next players move to the dock for their turn. So let's look at how to do this. If you're coming from creative, you'll find these tools familiar. You can construct gameplay rules using devices in UEFN in the same way as you can with the creative toolset. Devices are building blocks that cover common game mechanics and that you can customize to build out your game. So let's add some devices to start making our game rules. First, we'll add a player spawner device to specify where players can spawn, which we want on the dock and in the spectating area. And we're going to add trigger devices for each dock piece, and at the end on the boat to know where the runner lands as they're going through the level. And finally, we're going to add a damage volume device to cause the runner's turn to end when they fall into the water. So with these devices, we have a starting point for creating our game. But as we talked about before, we want a little bit more randomness and turn-based rules to kind of really make the final gameplay. And for that, we'll need a little bit more power. And that's where the verse programming language comes in. While one of the benefits of working with the creative toolset is not having to worry about programming or code, if you want to do something that no existing device or combination of devices can do, that gameplay concept cannot be implemented directly on a creative island currently. But with Epic's new programming language Verse, you can expand the creative toolset by using programming to bridge the gap that existing devices can't fill. You can make your own devices in Verse to add new functionality or simplify what would otherwise be complex device setups. With Verse, you can build your game your way. And note, all games created in UEFN are inherently online, and Verse is designed with this in mind, to scale with and safely power these online Fortnite experiences. And the version of Verse available in the UEFN public beta is an early version of the API and framework, but we'll expand Verse's capabilities as the language evolves and unlock more gameplay-specific functionalities in future updates. So what does it look like to use Verse in UEFN? UEFN has the Verse Explorer, where you can see all the Verse files in your project. You can create a new Verse file from Verse Explorer and use the Verse device template to create your own device. And when you click Build Verse Code, which will compile your code, your Verse-authored device will then appear in the content browser that you can then drag into the level like other devices. And once your device is in the level, your code will run when you start your game. So we've created our Verse device. Now let's expand what it can do to finish making our game. So here we have the code for deciding which side of the dock is going to break. Because we created a structure to hold each side of the dock in the dock row type, we can step through this collection of rows and call getRandomInt to randomly choose which side will break for each row. And the image here is one example of how this function can randomly pick which side is going to break. So the function will return an array of indices, which is generated by the for loop, that we can then look up when a trigger device is touched. So we figured out how to randomize which dock pieces break. Now let's work on managing player turns. We want to change whose turn it is when a player falls into the water. And this is where we put our damage volume device. So we'll need a reference to that device in the code. And similar to the concept of channels and the new direct event binding system in the creative toolset, we can create a custom function that we bind to the damage volume device's agent enters event, where this function will change whose turn it is whenever a player enters the damage volume. An advanced turn is that function that we bind to the event. And so in this function, first, we're going to get the player of the previous turn, and we decide who the next player is. If you're familiar with other programming languages, you might notice this if expression looks a little different. Before the then code block can execute, all the expressions in the if code block must be successful. For example, if previous turn owner is different from the player entering the damage volume, then the then code block won't run because that expression expected them to be the same, and so it didn't succeed. And this has to be true for every expression in the if code block. So we found the previous turn's player and the next turn's player. We can then call our own start turn function, which has the next player spawn on the dock. And then our own end turn function to move the previous player to the spectating area. We're also going to signal the player eliminated event, and we'll show what that means soon. So we've added the functionality we want for this game, but how do we use our code? Every device created in Verse has an onBegin function that runs when you start your game and that you can customize. Here, we use the Verse built-in race expression to run two asynchronous expressions at the same time, which we have our game loop and waiting for a player to reach the boat. Both of these are happening at the same time, and whichever expression finishes first will force the other to cancel, which means it stops executing. So we've set up our game loop. Now let's see what it looks like. And this is going to be the heartbeat of our game. So first, we will collect all the trigger device events into a single event that we can wait on. Then we'll start our loop, which repeats until the game ends. And the race expression here works the same as in the onBegin function. We have two asynchronous expressions. One is a block expression, which waits for the shared trigger device event, meaning the player found a trap dock. And when the player lands on a trap dock piece, Verse will then destroy the dock piece and play the dock-breaking VFX that Francisco so beautifully created earlier. And the second expression that's in the race block is the player eliminated event, which we wait on and that we signaled from the advanced turn function earlier. So that's the core loop of our game. It's pretty simple, right? So we finish coding our device, and when we compile our code again, our device that's already in the level will be updated with our changes. And because we had variables with the editable attribute in our verse device, we can then customize them in the editor, similar to how you can customize existing devices, without needing to change the code file itself to update these variables. So we have the game logic in place. Let's see how it runs. And for that, I'll pass it to Jay.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. Remember what Sarah said about inherently online? In Unreal Editor workflows, you're used to playing an editor. In UEFN, instead of play an editor, you're going to find the launch session button right up there at the top. When you launch the session, your game data is going to be uploaded, and Fortnite is going to launch. While launching, your data is prepared and packaged, and a private server is also spun up. Once that completes, your game data is downloaded and your client is connected to your server, and you can play, or you can edit. Launching a session looks like this. You can launch, like I said, into edit or play, and here we're launching into edit. This is what that edit session looks like. For those of you who have worked in Creative, you'll see that it looks familiar. Earlier when I said that UEFN complements the Creative toolset, this is what I meant. The capacity to edit in this way is still available. But more on that in a moment. We're excited to test our game and show it to all of you, so let's play. Once you start the game, you will play, test, and experience your game the same way your users are going to. It's easy to jump in together and play. You just have your team log in and jump into a party, and off you go. Now, this is the feature I'm really excited about. UEFN supports all platforms where Fortnite is found. You can instantly deploy to the console of your choice and playtest. You do not need a dev kit. You can have your PC over here and your console over here. The only requirement is you have Fortnite and that you're logged in. And you don't have to handle porting. All of that is done for you. I don't know about you, but I've always wanted that since I was a kid. Be able to deploy a game instantly to my console. Okay, so that was playtesting. Now let's go back to live edit like I promised. So we can leave play and collaborate. Here, I'm on my console making changes. I think that couch is in the way, so I want to get rid of it. And I've got some plans for this deck because the yacht, I think, is not quite complete. Notice that when I delete things on the console, the changes appear immediately in the editor. This trigger's too small, so I'm going to go ahead and widen it up. And once I accept my changes, you'll see it appears instantly in the editor. It also works the other way around. I can leave my console and go to my editor. And Francisco, I love the yacht, but I think it's missing something. It's not quite ostentatious enough. I want a golden llama. There it is. Note that the asset appeared instantly on the console. Any edits I make to that appear as well. Once you've made your changes in this edit mode, you can start your game, and they'll appear immediately. Some changes, such as importing new assets, will not appear immediately. Those simply require you to push those changes so that anyone who's connected can see them. So we've played a bit. We're happy with our game. We open the project menu, and we click Publish. Epic servers will prepare your data for each platform where Fortnite is found and generate your release candidate. You will submit your release candidate to Epic Moderation, where Epic aims for a 24-hour island review. And once your game goes through Epic moderation and passes, you can click the Publish button. We clicked the Publish button on this game this morning. You can play it now. This is the island code. You can open Fortnite, put this code in, and check it out. Additionally, published games will appear in Discover based on the tags that you give your game. So please ensure your tags are accurate. This game is live for millions of players to play around the world, everywhere you can find Fortnite. So, in this talk, we've made a game. We started prototyping using the included creative assets. We achieved our own look by importing our own assets. We defined our own rules with Verse. We collaborated, tested, and played. We instantly deployed to game consoles. And we published, all from one editor. That was your first game in UEFN. Additionally, to launching UEFN today, we launched Fortnite as part of the Epic developer community. This is a hub where you can find information on Creative, UEFN, and the Creator Economy 2.0. You will also find forums, tutorials. It's a great place to get started after you download UEFN. Before Q&A, I wanted to highlight that those resources are at this URL, dev.epicgames.com/community. You will also find the verse code for this talk on the developer community website. So please download UEFN, join in the community, and make games. So we'd like to take questions now about making your first game with UEFN. So we have 2 mics up here, and I will go back to leave this slide. Yes?
Hey, great work. This is incredible. My question is, the Discover and Browse tab,
Yes.
is it evolving in any way to accommodate the diversity of games that are kind of about to come in? And then kind of as a second, is there a potential in the future for a marketplace for tools and things you make in Verse? And that's it. That's my question.
So Discover is working the same way that you've used to it. Using tags is how the players will discover your games. So that's why it's extremely important that you set the tags correctly. And then your second one was?
If you make unique tools or, not tools, or like prefabs with Verse, as you kind of showed in the video, is there a way to either sell it or share it with other developers or people who are making games in the engine?
I don't know.
Like the Unreal Marketplace.
I don't know at this time, so keep an eye on the blogs for announcements regarding that.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Could you talk a little bit more about the revision control? And in particular, is there any way to sort of collaboratively edit the same objects in the world, or is it just for the code?
I'm sorry, did you say the rigging tool? Or?
Revision control.
Oh, okay, revision control,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so the way Unreal revision control works is you're going to create your project, and when you create your project, you will select Unreal revision control that you want to use it. You then can select a team. You can set up a team in the creator portal. So that is going to be at create.fortnite.com. Then you will add people to your team. Right? So once you're all on the same team, when you open the project panel in UEFN, all of you should see the same project. Once you make an edit, right, it will check the file out. When you're done with your file, you check it in. It will notify everyone else that you have made changes. They will then get those changes, and you will see those changes immediately.
Does the revision control also track like the map and the world itself, or is it just for code?
Okay, so every object that is in that you see in UEFN is actually using the one file per actor system in Unreal. So there's no need to check in the map, because if I move the yacht, that is one file, right? Well, actually, I think it's a prefab, so it's many files, but all those files will go together. So then I can then work on the dock while Francisco works on the yacht, while Sarah works on the verse code, and we can collaborate in that way without colliding. You just can't work on the same thing at the same time.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So, a question on the visual effects. Are those Fortnite-specific visual effects on the UEFN, are those available within the UEFN, or did you create that from scratch? Thank you.
The visual effect there we created from scratch using Niagara.
Got it.
So we just used an empty system.
Got it.
And we added a template emitter. So once you're in there, you can right-click, open the emitter, and there'll be a bunch of templates.
Got it.
Yeah, and then after that, we just added our own mesh.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first question, is there any collaborative editing support? For example, I can edit the level with my friend at the same time?
Edit with your, at the same time.
Yeah, maybe using different device, but adding the same level at the same time?
UEFN
Yep.
supports up to 16 simultaneous Fortnite clients connected. So one editor will support 16 people. So if you have 16 consoles connected, making changes, those changes will reflect back to the editor. Does that
Okay.
answer your question?
So can we using the editor? It's just using maybe 16 actor?
Okay, so if you want to collaborate in UEFN, you would use Unreal Revision Control in order to sync changes back and
Okay,
forth.
thank you. The second one is about animation. Can I just import any kind of different characters, riggings, also using the blueprint or animation graph in Unreal? Or?
So you can import your own skeletal mesh, right? We currently do not support animation blueprints.
Okay,
So, but you can import your own skeletal mesh and animations.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, first off, thanks for all the work. This is like taking democratization of game dev to a whole new level. So super exciting to see this stuff. But my question's more about concurrency, I guess similar to that last one. Like concurrency, when I launch a session, how many testers can I get in and play along with me? And can it be other people? And then also concurrency on the number of worlds. Like how many players can I have in my world at a time?
I need to get clarity, but I believe,
Yeah,
Francisco?
16, that's just, for the previous question, it's really just what Jay said. There's 16 people who can collaborate in the same time on any launch session. So there's basically one, I guess it's one UEFN guy and 15 console people.
Clients, yeah.
As for the runtime, it is Fortnite.
Okay,
So
pretty big.
100 players.
At least 100.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, great talk. I agree with all the sentiment on here. Really excited about it. My question has to do with generative AI. Are there plans to incorporate tools for generated AI links within the tool itself to utilize that? Like Roblox just had their announcement about AI tools within their own world building.
We're not talking about really about roadmap right at this time. So but if you have a question about UEFN, we can totally answer right now, like anything you saw today or your first game.
No, not right now, but thank you.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Hello. So earlier in one of the previous talks where they were demonstrating UEFN, I believe we saw some sort of like boss in one of those levels, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
My question is, like, is that all done through Verse, or because I have heard rumors about like a boss spawner? Was that done with that, or completely 100% through Verse?
You know, I don't know because I was not on that team.
Okay.
So I'm afraid I can't answer, sorry.
No worries.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I don't know how much verse went into each of those demos. If you want to know more, we have a business booth that you can come, and
Yeah.
we'll be there in 30 minutes, in fact.
Yeah, and I was going to head there right after this. So.
And there's three demos there, among which I think the one that you mentioned, and they are all made a little bit differently. Some boss don't, in one of those demos, don't use at all verse.
Okay.
Some others probably, I don't know, but definitely not. It's not like a mandatory step.
Okay.
Hi, how you doing? This was definitely like a really cool talk. I appreciate everything about this. This is amazing stuff, and I'm personally like a really big fan of Fortnite. So seeing this just really blew me away. So questions for you is that how limited is this? Like, can you make like a completely different game in Fortnite and possibly turn it into like, I don't know, Call of Duty and like change like the perspective, like make it first person, or turn it into like GTA, or turn it into like not even just a shooter, but like a sports game or whoever, or
So-
an action platformer?
There's currently some limitations.
Okay.
Characters and camera and controls are some of them.
Yeah.
As far as, did you watch the State of Unreal this morning?
Yes, I did. That was
So
really cool. Yeah.
that shooter that you saw, Deserted, is in our GDC booth. So we welcome you
Okay.
to come see it, and we'll be actually demonstrating that, so we can answer all of those questions there and more if you'd like.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
What else did I miss?
I mean, I was gonna ask you a question about like the 3D models. Like you can make any 3D model and import it into like the game. So maybe like make your own environment, or
Yes.
make like a Call of Duty map like that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you can import your own models, right?
Yeah.
And your own skeletal meshes, and you can create large worlds.
Yeah, that's definitely what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the expanse that we can support right now, I believe, is up to it is 5 kilometers by 5 kilometers. That is the width of the world that you can do now, which is far larger than what you could in Creative.
Ow.
5.2 kilometers by 5.2.
Okay, that's still good. That's still really good.
Engineers always get me on that one.
Yeah, it's hard. But thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Hello. So I'm a character artist, and this is really exciting seeing some of these static meshes that you could import as far as environment is concerned. But I was wondering, since it wasn't covered in the demo, what's the capability of adding new skeletal meshes and other like hand-created things through Maya or ZBrush and putting it in game? Like, will there be capabilities of putting like your own characters into the game?
You can pull in your own skeletal meshes now.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be able to pull out your own skeletal meshes. We do not have animation blueprint.
Okay.
Right, so you'll be using devices in order to control and trigger them.
Okay.
Did you want to add to that?
Oh, I just want to say there's a nice demo on the
Oh, there is a
the
demo.
booth with skin and mesh.
Perfect. That was what I was wondering. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please come by the business booth, and we can demonstrate that to you. It's on the Cameron.
You'll see it. It's
Left side. And on the North Hall. Yeah. Yes.
Hi. Thanks for the talk. This is all really exciting. So 2 questions. One, can blueprints be used along with Verse in UEFI? And the second question is, once a game is released, once it's approved, what are the options for like editing the storefront, like screenshots, names of the game, that sort of thing?
Okay, so blueprints are not supported in UEFN. If you would like to write logic, you'll be using Verse.
Mm-hmm.
And as for editing your screenshots of that, I recommend that you go to create.fortnite.com, and you'll find tools that are the evolution of being able to publish from Creative there. So you'll be able to update your description, your screenshots, and iterate on them there.
So once you're notified that you've been approved, right, you can go in and edit those things, right?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Hi, so the programming language Verse, to program in that, would you need a third-party software, an IDE, or can you do that in Engine or in the editor?
So when you, in UEFN, when you'll find the Verse button, and when you click the Verse button, it'll actually launch Visual Studio Code, and you'll be able to do your editing there. So we support syntax highlighting, and everything you need to write your Verse code.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
And then, yeah, so you can work in Visual Studio Code. We have it open right here. And it has everything that Visual Studio Code offers in our Verse extension for that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes.
I want to second everything everyone said about this being amazing, huge step forward. Like, congratulations, it's really, really cool. I'm not clear on the avatar portion of this. If I want to write custom character controllers and build my own like accessory system, can I do that?
Not currently. We don't support modifying the character right now.
Okay, is that in the vision or not?
We're not really discussing the roadmap right now.
Cool.
But yeah.
Hey, appreciate the talk. You mentioned creator payouts, and I was curious if there's anything you can share there, particularly when it comes to like monetization opportunities within the games themselves.
So if you go to the create.fortnite.com, you'll find more details about the creator economy 2.0.
Cool, thanks.
I was wondering, you mentioned earlier about one of the priorities of Verse being about like safe networking and that kind of thing. That makes me wonder, how does like client-server split work over this? Can I have like instant prediction on the client? Can I have like custom UI on the client? And what do you really mean by like security? Does that mean like as a game developer, I never have to worry about like malicious actors because like the environment doesn't support it? The whole area of like client server is really interesting to me here.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we actually have a Verse talk later today where they'll get into more details on the Verse programming language. And I think better able to answer that question.
Yeah, I believe that talk's at 3:30 today, so check your schedule.
Hello, I'm wondering, is custom shaders or material editors supported?
Yes, the material editor is supported. We do not have, did you?
No, sorry. I think you
not every material node will be there, but we have coverage of most of the material nodes. But yes, you can create your own custom materials and create your own post-processes as well.
Interesting. What about shaders, like shader code?
Sorry, the biggest difference is the HLSL code. You cannot write your own HLSL code for first-party platform constraint, but the whole material editor is here.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hi.
Over here?
Yes. Is Verse built on an existing coding language? I remember hearing some news last year of some hires that had been working on a similar language. Can you speak anything about the background and history of Verse, and is it similar to any other existing languages?
I would actually defer you to the Verse talk going on later today at 3:30.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, I was wondering the animation importing capabilities. Is it all joint and skeletal based, or can you import procedural ones that you make out of Cinema 4D with MoGraph?
You want to go?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Okay.
Actually, go to dev.epicgames.com for more details on the importing of animations. None of us are animators, so we're not equipped to answer that question.
Would it be possible to import like textures to use for UI, or is the UI also fixed at the moment?
Currently, the UI is limited, but you can import your own textures into the world and sort of develop your sort of diegetic elements if you'd like to put them in your world. But no UI control at the moment.
Okay.
And last question.
So when you showed the playtest, there was a memory bar briefly on that Switch console.
Yes.
With the simple world, it was about half full. Can you share more about how memory management works across device and platform?
Sure. So just like in Creative, we have abstracted the megabytes into a 100K unit of memory. And when you cook, when the assets are cooked and they are in the session, they take up some memory. It will increase this bar. And we try to make sure that you don't go over this limit so that your experience work on every platform. Is there any?
So if I make something that's big and runs well on like a PC, and then I go play it on an Android device, what happens?
Yeah, there's different things. If it's a big world, you want to enable the world partition system, so the streaming of the world partition system. In that case, the bar will represent only the memory that you use at a specific position in the world, meaning that your world can use a lot of asset, let's say 2 gigabytes of asset, whereas the limit, let's say 2 gigabytes of asset, whereas the limit is much smaller, but the limit for publishing. But because at any specific point in the world, you're not consuming all this asset at the same time, because the streaming is enabled, then you're still okay.
Cool, thank you.
All right, last question.
Okay. Is there a load time penalty for bringing in your own assets? Like, is that going to slow down the experience when it's first starting up because there's more to download for users versus using the built-in assets?
So you do benefit from the built-in assets being already included in the Fortnite install. So when you create your download, we currently have a publishing limit. So your download package can only be of a certain size. So generally, we chose a size that allows you to download on a good internet connection in under a minute. That's what we usually target. So there's no penalty. There is a sort of download size, but it should be very quick because we restrict you to a smaller, around 400 megabytes is where we have the publishing limit.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you all for coming.